So you do not have to remember these. Okay. They are all on the blue sheet. Cameron, relax. You get this on the EOC. It will not be blue. It will not be laminated, but they're going to print it out for you probably, or it's going to be online. All the formulas for 3D shapes this chapter are literally on here. Okay. So the first one we're going to talk about is a prism. So I think it's a little overwhelming, but if you look here, a prism and a cylinder have the same formula. We're doing volume today. We're going to do surface area later. So volume is big B H. Okay, that's not little b. If you look over here where the key is, little b represents the base. Big B is not the same as little b. Big B is the area of the base. So you have to kind of, the hardest part for this is you have to plug in a formula to big B. Okay, so let's think about a prism. What shape is my base if I shade it in? It's not a square. It's a rectangle. How do you find area of a rectangle? Base times height, which I'm not going to put base times height because I think it's going to confuse you. Another way to find area of a rectangle instead of base times height is length times width. So I'm going to plug in length times width. And then you still have your height because it's a 3D shape. I'm trying to do different colors here and it's not really working because they both look the same. But what is the length of the base? 14. What's my width of my base? 6. What's the height of the overall shape? 1 and 2. And so we're just going to multiply these. Easy. What? 1,848. Oh, Jesus. 1,848. Voila. Okay. That's the answer. A cylinder, if you look at the blue sheet, has the same formula as a prism. Okay. But now my base is not a rectangle. So we're using the same original formula. Big B is not a rectangle. What shape is my base? A circle. So I'm not using length times width as my base. What's the formula for area of a circle? Pi r squared. If you look at the formula sheet, it tells you area of a circle is pi r squared. So the hardest part is replacing big B with a different formula. So I'm going to find pi r squared, or I'm going to plug that in, and I'm basically multiplying by the height of the actual shape. So what's my radius to my base? 4. So we're going to do pi 4 squared times my height. And then you just need to do PEMDAS first. So we have to do 14 squared first. I mean 4 squared. 16. 16 times 19 is how much? 304. So you have 304 pi. If it wants in terms of pi, that's the answer. Okay. So sometimes it'll have it like where pi is left alone. Okay. We kind of did that first day. The other way that they could have it is that you multiply it together. So does anybody remember where the pi button is on my calculator? So we're going to press times pi, which is EXP, and then make sure you press equals. So the final answer. Yes. And then I'm going to put like 2 decimal places today, just so that way, depending on how they want you to round it on the EOC. The key with this is you can do the whole thing in the calculator, which is totally fine. Like you should be able to plug everything in. You don't want to be rounding and then rounding and then rounding and rounding. You want to use as much as the decimal as possible. So just keep it all in the calculator. Don't clear your calculator at all. Okay. So pi is EXP. Okay. So take a second. I want you to try number 1 and try number 5 down at the bottom. So try 1, try 5. Easy peasy. Aiden, do math.
No, that's fun. You get it. Like Actually, can I have a pencil, Miss Holly?
Yeah, come here.
Or can you toss it? It's only fun.
No, because I might stab Aiden in the eyeball.
Awesome.
Yeah. Try 1 and 5. Try the prism, try the cylinder. The what? Yeah, you need to find both.
Those are rice cakes.
It's really good.
You're gonna find some you should share something like that. Oh.
Yes.
I love it. It was like.
Never. I only had one, sorry.
I think you're nice, you're not nice. You're fun. It's like.
I wanted them. Pretty sure. No, it's not season. Hey, it's bland and cherry.
Oh,
You know what? I wanna go home and eat cheese and chocolate.
dummy.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, so for number 1, it's big BH. This one's also big BH. They have different bases. This one's length times width and times height. So when you multiply 5 times 18 times 14, what do you end up getting? What, 1260? Okay. Over here, this one is the same formula, big BH, but big B is not length times width, it's pi r squared. Your radius is not 16, your radius is 8. So if you use 16, it's automatically wrong. So 8 squared is 64. 64 times 13 gives me how much? 832, and then I have pi in the back. So that's in terms of pi. If I actually multiply them together, what do I get as the final answer? Nice. Okay, so my pen's running out of ink, I think. Let's go to the next two. So the next two, so once again, these two had the same formula, but they are different because big B is based on the base. Okay, cone and pyramid. These two we're going to do. Same formula, 1/3 big BH, but the base is different. So for the cone, what shape is my base? Circle. So I'm going to start by just copying the formula because this is the formula given on the EOC. So I need you to recognize that this is what you're going to get. Yeah. We're going to replace big B with a circle. So it's not length times width. What am I going to use? Pi r squared. So I'm replacing with pi r squared. And then I'm multiplying by the height. So in this case, if this is my base, my radius is not 9. Yes, we should. I don't know if we did. What's my radius? 4.5. And then H is 20. So it's the same thing. We're going to multiply by 1/3 in the end. So in the calculator, we're going to do 4.5 to the power of 2. 4.5 squared. Or multiply by 20. And then remember, you have a fraction button. So I'm going to multiply by 1/3. So times 1 ABC third. And then press equals. So 135 pi. So that's in terms of pi. We're going to now multiply by pi. Because all the pi ones that have a circle in it, you're going to have 2 forms of the answer. So you're going to have the final answer, and then you're going to have the pi version.
No.
So you're taking 135. You're timesing by the pi button, which is EXP. 424.115, so 112-ish. Yeah. 1 or 12. Whatever. Okay. A pyramid. Now we're in Egypt. Okay, can we stop with the food? Put it away. No. Yeah, save it for later. Okay, we have 1/3 big BH. Big B is not a circle anymore. Big B is what shape? A square. So we're replacing it with a square. So what's my formula for a square?
Base times height.
Base times height or length times width. I'm gonna put it as length times width, but it's the same thing. Yeah, I can't. But even if I did and I wanted to give it to you, I don't ever. I don't take medicine. Like ever. I'd be like in my deathbed to be taking medicine. So we're doing length times width, which is the base, and then we're gonna multiply by the height of the actual pyramid in the end. Aiden, put it in your backpack. Put it back in there. Put it back in. No, put it in your backpack. Aiden, put it. Hmm. Fine, one. Okay, so try number 3. And then I want to talk about number 2 before you try it. So try number 3. It's a cone. Yeah, I know. That's why I said don't do that one.
So we have the.
So try 3. Hmm. Yeah.
School's hard.
Life is harder. You enjoying school right now?
It's
It's almost over.
For the cone, how'd you find 4.5?
Because I took the diameter and cut it in half to represent the radius.
Oh, okay.
So for number 3, you will have to cut 17.6 in half. He's doing math. Leave him alone. Yeah, I know, but he's not.
Pick on some of your own sides. I'm getting pretty up.
Yeah. Wait, which one's the 5 button? I don't think
Yeah.
you forgot.
It's the EXP button down at
Pick
the
on
bottom,
some of your own sides.
Oh.
like down here.
Oh,
Okay, so for number 3, what do we end up getting with our pi? Perfect. So 604.03 pi, that would be in terms of pi. And then if you want to find the whole answer, you multiply by the pi button. So what do you get as the final answer? Perfect. Okay. Volume represents how much you're filling in it. Okay. You need the actual height. So if we go to number 2 now, number 2 is a pyramid. It's the same formula as a cone. Big B is just different. It's not a circle for the base because we're in Egypt and it's a pyramid. Okay. So we're thinking like it's a square. Okay. So let's go over here. So we have same volume formula. Volume is 1/3 big BH. But the base is not a circle. So what formula am I going to use for my square? Length times width,
Oh, sorry.
which is base times height, but I don't want to put B times H because I think it's just going to confuse brains. Okay. And I feel like I already did that enough. So Now, the problem is that somebody mentioned the height is not the same as it was before. We need to find the height of the pyramid. The actual height. Right now we have this thing called the slant height. We can't use that. We need the actual height. So if I drop in a straight line, it's making a perpendicular line with the base, which is creating a 90-degree angle. I have the slant height. It's Pythagoras, he's back. Woo! Okay. No. Okay. So you have a right triangle. Shh. Keegan and Cameron, can you guys stop? You have a hypotenuse, which is 12.5. It's not 8.8. 4.4, because it's the whole base is 8.8, so the bottom is 4.4. So we've done the Pythagorean theorem enough. Realistically, you should be able to know that you can just plug this into the calculator without having to think that hard, okay? You're solving for A or B, so this is a subtraction problem. Cameron, move, because you and Keegan are unproductive. Cameron, move. No, I don't have to kick her out. Just move someone else. Okay, well then Keegan move. Rock, paper, scissors.
None of them want to move.
No. So you're taking 12.5, you're squaring it, and you're subtracting 4.4 squared. You shift square root.
Oh, I forgot the square root. That's right. No, 11.7.
Yes.
What the is?
Okay. So the height is 11.7. If you got like 130 something, you need to shift square root it. Okay. The 11.7 is the actual height. So now that we actually have the height, I'm going to use the length and the width from the base. My length and my width are the same because it's a square. So 8.8 times 8.8. My height is not 12.5, it's 11.7. So you're just going to multiply them and then multiply by 1/3. Yeah.
No, you have to type the ABC in.
No. You could, yeah.
For everyone.
No. Just use the fraction button so you don't get confused. Okay. The last shape that we have to do is a sphere. A sphere a sphere is on here. There is no big B, which is beautiful. It's very nice. Okay. A sphere is a 3-dimensional circle, like a basketball or a baseball or something like that. So a sphere's formula is literally what it says. You don't have to plug anything in for big B. You're just using this formula. So the formula on the reference sheet is V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So my radius is given. We're in it. It's 19. It looks like a decimal kind of, but it's 19. So we're going to use just our formula. We don't have to plug anything into the formula. We're just plugging in our radius. So you have to do 19 cubed first because PEMDAS for life, you have to do the exponents. So on your calculator, does anybody see where the cube button is, not the square button?
Yes.
Where is it at? It's so it's next to the plus or minus. It's right here. It's like a little arrow. So you have to press shift because it's above it. So we're going to do 19. And if you can't find the button, you can do 19 times 19 times 19, which is annoying, but we're going to do 19 cubed. So shift cubed. It's this button. You have to press shift.
Okay.
And then I can press times 4/3. So for ABC.
You can do it back times by 5.
Fractions are not fraction possible. This is the calculator for doing.
Yeah.
So this is 9,145 and 1/3. Yeah, so if you don't like that, you can press ABC and get the decimal. If you don't want the decimal, you can leave it as a fraction. Okay, I'm gonna leave it as a decimal. So in terms of pi, this would be my answer. So anytime there's a pi, you technically have two forms of answers. That's the exact, because that's in terms of pi. And then I'm gonna multiply by pi. And because this is in millimeters, it's really, really freaking small. That's why your number is like obnoxiously huge. Okay, so try number 4. You cannot use 15.6 as your radius. You're going to cut 15.6 in half because you need a radius. But you're halving the radius for now. Then we'll talk about like why it looks different. Let's number 4.
Triangle has the
Can you add the 2 on the inside and equal to the outside?
What is half a sphere?
So what are we gonna have to do in the end?
I don't know.
Thanks, Dad.
Divided by 2?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew that.
So you should be using this formula. Just worry about finding it just the normal way. And then we'll talk about it at the very end. So you should be using 7.8.
For
Okay, so you gotta do 7.8 cubed. 7.8. So 7.8 cubed gives me this. I'm multiplying by 4/3. You get this. That's in terms of pi. So I'm going to multiply by pi. So I get this. Now, if you look at your picture, it's not a whole circle. So we divide by 2. That's that. So we're going to divide by 2. And this is why you want to leave all of it in your calculator, because you don't want to round to the very end. If you're rounding, writing it down, rounding, writing it down, rounding, writing it down, you're rounding like 8 times. Just leave it in the calculator and just keep going with the calculator numbers. The more decimals you use till the very end, the more likely, Hayden, that's not nice. The more likely it's going to be correct, because you're like not rounding 12 times within a problem. Did you get this part? So then you multiply by pi button. Did you get this part? So now divide by 2. So you may have wrote it down. And so if your decimal, if you round here, then divide by 2, then you're rounding again. That's why it's off. I wrote it probably like a whole number. Yeah. So then right here, you put 0.4 instead of 0.9. Yeah. That's why, like, you just want to keep all in the calculator till the very end. Okay. So on the back, we're going to do the word problems tomorrow. Do not scribble them out, because we're going to do them tomorrow. On the back side, just for now, just put skip next to it so that way you don't accidentally do it. Okay, we're going to do 6 and 7 tomorrow together. Okay, you have these problems down here. Let's first, there's one problem that requires the Pythagorean theorem. Does anybody see which one requires the Pythagorean theorem? There's only one. It's 9. 9 is the only one that has a slant height. So 9, you will have to do the Pythagorean theorem. Let's talk about 8. 8 has 2 shapes stuck together. So you're gonna have to find both shapes. And then what are you gonna do to find the total volume? You're gonna add it.
Sorry.
So what 2 shapes are in number 8?
In a cylinder.
A cylinder
What's called a sphere.
and a sphere.
Are we doing this together?
No. So what you're doing is you're finding a cylinder and a sphere, and then you're gonna add it together. I'm gonna tell you now that 8 and 9 are the hardest. So if you want to do the other ones first and then do those ones, that's fine. If you want to do the hard ones first to get them out of the way, it's also fine. 8 and 9 are the hardest. Oh. Womp womp. So, let me know if you get stuck. If you want to work backwards, you can work backwards through them. They're not that bad once you get going, I promise. Make sure you're using the right formula. Step 1, use the right formula.